Hello, Tom, aka Gerion, here for the Star Frontiers Gamer. Today we're going to talk about robots, and we'll probably do this in a couple of parts. So, my main contention with Star Frontiers Robots is I feel that the programming system that they invented for Star Frontiers Robots is the most elegant that I've seen. And that stems from the idea of having a mission and having functions that define the mission. That this was elegant because it allows the game master a very simple set of lines that can be written on an index card and allow him to control the robot as an NPC element within the game. It also allows the player a chance to use his skill, his robotic skill, and hack a robot, reprogram it, and use it to do something within the game. And so I just feel like it is the absolute the best I've seen. Now the robots themselves may not. You might look at them and be like, I like Traveler robots better. Sure. The programming elements that they've installed in this game are what I'm talking about here, that they are the most elegant for controlling. And this video is just going to cover the basics of what a Star Frontiers robot is. We're not going to be discussing body types per se, or we're not, just going to do the basics. So there's 6 levels of robot. So robot levels. Your first level robot, these are your dumb vacuum cleaners, your Roombas. This might be a robot that all it does is wash dishes in a restaurant, or it mops and waxes floors in a facility. They cannot communicate. They don't receive radio signals. They just have a very simple program, very simple instructions, and they kind of are limited to the most simple of jobs. The level 2 robot is a step up because they can receive, radio or your chronocom signals. They communicate in a machine language like binary, and they're usually controlled under the direction of a robot management program, or a higher level robot like a level 5 or 6 robot would control these. The most common pairing that you'll see is some low-level combat robots paired with a warbot, and the warbot will manage a squad of combat robots in this way. So the level 3 is the first level of robot that can actually talk verbally with the player characters. They can handle more complicated jobs, but they are still very literal in how they interpret their programming. And if they're given instructions that disagree with the programs, they will just ignore the orders and the instructions given to them. Now, level 4 robots act semi-independently. The programs are flexible. They can accomplish specific goals using different methods. So you might ask a level 4 robot, how do I get to the starport? Robot might give you verbal directions, might print you a map with the route drawn on it. So they can do things in a variety of ways. They're a little more flexible. They have, all right, this is the goal. So I could do it this way, or I could do it this way. It'll make a decision about how it wants to do that. Level 5 robots are the first level of robots that can act independently. And they're able to give orders to other robots. And this type of robot, you think like the Terminator would be like a level 5 robot in Star Frontiers. They're able to act independently. They're able to say, all right, here's my goal. This is what I need to do to accomplish that goal. So it will begin to problem solve on its own. The level 6 robot, these are self-programming. They can change their methods that they use. They can actually change their programming sometimes. Think Data from Star Trek for a level 6 robot. These are your robotic brains. And so this is the game's answer to like a Data from Star Trek. These are usually your highest level war bots, search and destroy, assassin type bot, robotic brains that run like city infrastructure, like plumbing, the water reclamation, the electrical grid, managing traffic, the robotic brain running robotics factories. And so it'll be ordering raw materials and putting out the shipping. And so these are the very high level robots, and they're used to do complicated things within the frontier. So here we are with the standard robot cost table. And I brought this up. I didn't actually want to discuss this till we were actually building robots, but this table is good for illustrating this. You have your types of robots in the frontier. These are it: the maintenance, heavy duty, combat, security, service, cybernetic, warbot, and robot brain. Your maintenance robots, you notice that they are limited here, according to this table, to no higher than level 4. These are the robots that, when we say maintenance, they're not really repairing things. They're changing light bulbs, mopping floors. They're doing basic scut work, that nobody else wants to do. Janitorial type work. These are your hauler robots. They're hauling something for you. Delivery robots. This is a maintenance robot. If you notice down here, and because they get confused sometimes with service robots, your service robots, they start at level 3 and go up to level 6, your highest. Now, this would be like your secretary robot, your nanny robot. They need to be able to think more creatively. Your butler robot would be a service robot. So that would be this type of robot. And you can look at, let me just shift this over. Notice here where it says levels and then the expense. You're paying for the processor here. So a level 1 robot, it's only 200 credits for the processor that's thinking and doing stuff. So the heavy duty robots, these would be your construction equipment. Like you might have essentially a heavy duty robot that's got a dump body. And so it just gets filled with ore and it delivers that ore to where it's processed. And so it just does that under a robot management program. And then you have another, digging, rock crushing robot that's crushing the rock, and then it loads it into the dump body heavy duty robot. So that's your heavy duty robots. They're very limited. No higher than level 4, same as the maintenance robots. You get by with these being like level 2, level 3. And your combat robots. Now notice that they are level 2 through 4, so they're not very bright. They don't need to know much. The security robot is actually can be smarter than a combat robot, because the security robot's got to think about halting people, restraining people, and managing more stuff. It actually is the security robot's got to manage a little bit more, whereas the combat robot, you just point it at a target and tell it to go kill it. So he doesn't have to think that much about restraining and not harming people, because his mission is to do harm. So your combat robots are lower level, but you'll have a squad of them paired with like a warbot, and that, because the warbot's a thinking machine, a high level thinking machine, and he's able to use these as cannon fodder. It makes them a greater challenge in a boss encounter. So your security robots, let me shift the thing. So your security robots can go all the way up to level 6. There's a thinking machine. He's concerned with the security of the facility, and if he was a level 6, he's probably in charge of the security for a facility, or maybe the facility might be a starship, doesn't have to be a building. So security robots have more on the ball and more mental assets going on, because they've got it's a tougher job per se. The service robots, we discussed those. It's your nanny bots, your like a medical robot, could be a pilot. You know, if the robot is just your pilot, your chauffeur, and you've got an air car, he's got to have greater thinking capacity to fly that. Your cybernetic robots. This is very ill-defined in Star Frontiers, and it's, in '82, it was the trope. The trope was there that, I believe Terminator was out. That was a cybernetic robot because you had living flesh paired with the robot. I've usually treated them as that for some reason they decided they wanted a living brain jacked into a robot body, kind of like RoboCop. So I've gone more the RoboCop direction with these than the Terminator direction with these. But the Terminator direction might actually make more sense. So they included it. They're very poorly defined. And we'll stay away from that for now. The Warbot. These are level 5 and level 6. These are your assassin bots. These are your going to war and gonna kick butt and chew bubblegum, and we're all out of bubblegum, so we're bringing the pain. And then there's the robot brains, and they are only level 6, and they manage city services. They manage factories. They've got a lot going on, and particular rules involving them. So these are your basic types of robots. And I have played around with creating robots, and I just don't see a need for another category. Maybe you do. I think all of these categories work, but there are limitations on level. While we're here, we'll talk about one of the biggest landmines in Star Frontiers, and that is this table itself. And it gives these standard robot cost table. It gives these costs, and one of the problems that has cropped up, robots end up being overpriced in this game because people will start pricing it out, and so they'll go, all right, we're doing a level 2 heavy-duty robot, so 5,500. They will come over here and go, level 2 is 500. They'll add that for 6,000, and then they'll add the heavy-duty robot has a heavy-duty body. That's another 5,000. So 11,000 credits for this robot, and that's actually overpriced. This table reflects the cost of the heavy-duty robot body, 5,000 credits, and right here, level 2 robot, 500 credits. So it's the cost of the level of robot plus its body. That's the standard table. But not all of these are reflective of that. If you look at the brain robot, according to the rules as written, he's supposed to have a heavy-duty body, which is 5,000 credits, and he's level 6. That's 8,000 credits. That would be 13,000 for a difference of 4,000. So they've accounted in that price for some of his programs. And in this case, it's the computer link program, which a robot brain almost always is going to need to do their job as a city manager, city service manager, as a factory, managing a factory. It's got to be able to connect to the computer net. So the computer link program for 4,000 credits is subsumed within the standard cost. So some of these actually include the programs, but nowhere in the rules do they tell you this, and nowhere do they tell you, it's this, and this. You got to figure it out. And so this has been the number one landmine where, in my role as the editor of the magazine, when somebody has submitted a robot and they've put a cost on that robot, a price on that robot, 99% of the time, if they are incorrect in the cost, it's because of this table. They have started with this price and then gone over here and then added in the cost for the brain, the processing level of robot. This is the cost of his brain effectively here. And then they add in the cost of the body. And, and then they'll turn around and be like, oh, well, we got to add the cost of the computer link. So if it was the robot brain that they were creating, I mean, they've just doubled the price across the board on this robot. And so this is the number one landmine in the game. Don't use these prices when you're pricing out a robot. Use these prices if I need a quick price for the robot and I don't want to look everything up myself. Use that price and move on. It does not include, and it probably should have, it does not include the cost of the para battery. So that's the robots. Now, we're going to come back to this and we're going to talk about building the robots later. So let's jump back to the skill section where it discusses missions and functions and talk about programming these things. Oh, before we go there, just take a note. There are special programs that you'll load into a robot. And these special programs like restrain, this tells a security robot how to restrain the core 4 people. So we don't want to have to write when we're programming a robot, do this to restrain a human. Do this to restrain, and then here's 4 more other ways you could restrain a human. And then because drolocytes are different physiologically, this is how you restrain a drolocyte. And you're restraining a vert. We don't want to have to write all of that. So you just say the restrain program is there. If a robot needs to be able to defend itself, it must have a self-defense program. If it doesn't have a self-defense program and it's attacked, it can't defend itself. The attack defense program is necessary if it's going to be using any weapons that the player characters would use. So this allows it to attack and to defend itself and to use any of the weapons the player characters use. That's all in that program. Search and destroy program, kind of self-explanatory, but this is what your war bots, your assassin bots, this is what they need. And when I say assassin bot, I just mean a war bot with a search and destroy program and a mission to go out and kill somebody. Computer link lets it access the computer network. The security lock is not so much a program. It is inspired by the restraining bolt in Star Wars, but we'll discuss that in the skills section when we discuss the player character robotics skill. So here we are with missions. All robots have a mission. A mission is a set of rules to tell the robot what its job is. The mission is the most important order, and then the functions define things within the mission. So let's just jump right down to the example here. The example they give is a level 3 security robot that might have a mission to say, and I've highlighted it for you, stop all unauthorized personnel from entering the building. The functions would define stop and so it would define stop as giving the intruders a warning and then using its restrain program to keep them from entering. You would then need a function to tell it what is an unauthorized personnel, and that would be aligned. So it would say, the function would say unauthorized personnel are anyone lacking the special badge, company badge or uniform. So you make a simple statement, and the robot would need to be given a function that defines the building. You can define the building with a physical description. Write it out in words. You could define it with a map. I find it's easier, since we are using maps in the role-playing game, it's easier to just go, building is defined with a map. So if the players access it and they want to read what the function says, they just hand them the map and say, the function defines the building as this. To me, that's the easiest to do. So then you can have another function that instructs it to call the police after it has restrained intruders. That would be a function, and that function is not explicit in this mission. But sometimes you can have functions that are not explicit to the mission. It's not explicitly in the mission, but it makes sense that it should do that. So you will include those. I typically, when I'm writing a mission, I will use words like facility, authorized personnel, and then I just automatically know that authorized personnel is going to have a function. Facility will have a function. Could be particular building, could be a campus of buildings, could be a spaceship, that this is where you function, this is where you are to perform your mission, is in this area. It limits it. If I was writing a delivery robot, say pizza delivery robot, pizza and beer delivery robot, it would have a function defining its area. When I was a pizza delivery driver, I had an area of service that I operated within. So it's very conceivable, like a delivery robot or a courier robot would have a function that just limits the area it functions in. And you could just say downtown Port Lauren. It only functions in downtown Port Lauren within so many kilometers of the heart of downtown Port Lauren, within so many kilometers of the restaurant, the store, the place of business. And so I automatically know when I start writing functions, I use these words like area of service, controller, that the controller is authorized to give orders to the robot. You would write those things into the functions to explain the mission. But again, these are just a handful of lines you would write on an index card, and it allows a game master to know how to run this asset within the game without it being very complicated. And it also allows the player to hack the robot and change some of these things to do things, to get it to do things he wants it to do. So if you're infiltrating an enemy facility, you find a robot and you deactivate it, you take the time to rewrite a couple of its functions, you could rewrite this robot in such a way as to create a distraction, to attack somebody for you. I mean, there's a variety of things, and we'll discuss programming from the player's side in the next video. So I also want to encourage game masters to create opportunities for the players to use their robotics skill in the game. You really need to have robotic minions and opponents. They are a great cannon fodder. They're only 100 standard robot body, anthropomorphic robot body, or only 100 stamina points. So they're fairly easy to blow away. And they can be a decent challenge in the game, especially if they're not too high a level. So you want to be thinking about including those level 2, 3, and 4 robots, making them fairly common in your game. Give the robotics player something to use his skill on, because this could be a fun thing, especially when it messes up, or when when we get into the looking at the skills, the robotic skills. There's some consequences for some failed skill checks. Like a robot malfunction, then you're rolling on the robot malfunction table, and there's some fun things that can happen there. These are fun to include in the game as well. So I want to encourage you to use the robotics rules in this game for your RPG. I think the missions and functions are absolutely elegant in how they play out. And you can just change one thing in a function and end up with a robot doing completely opposite of what the owner of that robot intended for it to do. And it'll have game consequences. It can advance the game for the players. It could have consequences for the players they weren't intending. And to me, this makes the robotics a chance for fun and excitement within the game. And I highly encourage you to use it more often as a game master. So thank you, Tom from Star Frontiers Gamer. Thanks to all of my subscribers, and you guys, see you in the frontier.